Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber.
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber, signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Shop safe with PayPal.
It takes thousands of hours to become an astronaut, right, Nina?
Oh, I'm not an astronaut. I'm a design consultant at the Container Store.
But you explore space.
I help you find space with our Alpha Closet systems.
And you're an expert.
Pretty good at it.
And you use satellites to communicate.
I'm doing more virtual in-home closet designs, but I wouldn't say...
We salute you, astronaut Nina, for helping us find space.
You're welcome.
Hurry to the Container Store to save 30% on all Alpha systems. At the Container Store, where space comes from.
Welcome to the Behind the Bits podcast. Your host, Scott Curtis, wants to learn everything he can about stand-up comedy and take you along for the ride. Scott and his guests talk serious about comedy in every episode. Behind the Bits will uncover knowledge from different perspectives on subjects such as writing and performing stand-up comedy, as well as booking shows and the comedy life. If you're thinking about becoming a stand-up comic, already in the comic game, or a comedy nerd, Behind the Bits is the show for you. Now, let's get Behind the Bits.
Hey, BTB buddies, you know I'm always looking for great independent podcasts, and I found another one in Quantum Week. Holy cow, Quantum Week is a wild ride through pop culture history. Chris and Matt team up and pick a random week in history and talk about the movies, music, and headlines that make that week unique. The Quantum Week guys talk about all the weeks. Do you know what was big on the week of June 28th, 1991? Well, it was A League of Their Own and Baby Got Back, so there you go. Going back in time with Chris and Matt is a lot of fun. Quantum Week just doesn't give you an audible list of the stuff going on in a particular week. Chris and Matt review movies like Top Gun, Mean Girls, and Beetlejuice, along with music by Katy Perry, Hootie and the Blowfish, and Drake. They also cover weeks in all the years. I've listened to episodes that cover weeks from 1969 to 2016. The big movie in 1969, by the way, was Midnight Cowboy. The banter between Chris and Matt is a lot of fun, and I like the way they don't agree on everything. Quantum Week is a great show to take you back to the week that means something to you, or to discover movies, music, and news you may have missed. Check out Quantum Week on all the podcast apps. It's a good one. My guest today is a stand-up comedian, author, and former co-host of the Emmy-nominated Star Talk with Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. She has performed for U.S. troops in the Middle East and has appeared on HBO, Lifetime, Comedy Central, and The View. She has a PhD in interdisciplinary studies and has a dry bar special. How many people can you say has that? And here's a little tidbit for you. She also wrote the pilot for the Chris Rock show. It's Leighann Lord.
Hey
How
there.
are you?
I'm great. I want to clarify. I was one of a team of writers on the pilot of the Chris Rock show.
Okay.
So, oh my word! I don't want any angry phone
Yeah.
calls or missed tweets or none of that. And
Okay.
that
A
was so
team
long
of
ago.
writers. Yeah.
And I didn't last long. I wasn't there past the pilot. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. This is kind of funny. I did want to tell the story of how I discovered you. This podcast is just a little over a year old. I'm like 2 episodes over a year old. And in 2019, I knew I was going to do the podcast. I was doing another podcast. I knew I was going to switch over to this one, but I was nowhere near ready. And I didn't have artwork or anything like that. I wanted to make sure I did it right. So I was doing all the due diligence and studying other podcasts and making sure I'm different and stuff like that. But at that time, I was getting obsessed with George Takei. The best way to, when you're obsessed with somebody, is to listen to podcasts, because that's where you get the real story. The TV stuff doesn't really work. And, you know, his story is just so compelling. I mean, with the internment camps, with how he was typecast as an actor for so long, and being gay at a time where, you know, it's not good now, but it was really bad when he was young. So I was searching out podcasts, and Star Talk had you and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he introduced you. And I thought you were just so great on the show that I put your name in my notes and on my phone. Put it in there along with all my grocery lists, all the measurements for the stuff I'm doing in the house, and it just keeps going down, down, down. And right before I emailed you, I was cleaning up my notes. I've been through 2 phones, I think, since that note.
Wow. Okay.
And so I was cleaning up, and I was going, Leighann Lord. I'm like, I don't remember. So I had to look you up, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's that one. So I emailed you, and it's funny, I emailed you direct instead of using a publicist, because all the publicists are just shooting me down lately. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Wow, I made the list, literally.
Yeah.
And survived 2 phones. That's
no doubt.
a major deal there.
So one of the things I wanted to get into you first, I mean, you've been doing comedy for 25 years, right?
It's a little more now. Yeah, I started in 92. Yeah.
Okay.
Craziness.
Now, during that time, you're doing all this education. I mean, you're doing your bachelor's and PhD and stuff like that. So what came first?
I got my bachelor's before I started doing comedy, and the PhD totally honorary. That's
okay.
Yeah. Don't put me up against folks who struggled and did their dissertation and did work. I'm just, greedy.
Okay. Well, hey, it's great to put on your credits.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. It's like, because everybody's like, what does that have to do with comedy? Like, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And then it does not help for dating. It's like, nah, she's too smart.
Oh.
But the work of being a full-time comic, man, that's an education in and of itself, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
Right. So what prompted you to get on the stage?
Oh gosh. Well, my prompt to get on the stage was even before I did stand-up. I turned into a theater minor when I was in college. And so I performed, I did musicals, I did straight plays. I loved being on stage. And then the comedy part was that, I loved making my friends laugh, and then that started from childhood, where I really made the conscious decision that I was tired of being picked on for doing my schoolwork. And I said, well, what'll make them stop? And I thought, well, maybe if I'm funny, if I make them laugh, if I tell the joke about me first before they do, A, it won't hurt as much, and B, they're laughing, C, maybe they'll leave me alone.
Yeah.
It worked. It totally worked. It became a tool in my arsenal, never suspecting that I would ever actually do stand up. That didn't come until after I graduated college.
Yeah. And what was that first time like?
First time on stage?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was so nervous. I didn't want to do it. I had taken a class, that's what everybody does, 8-week class, and I thought, about 2 weeks before, I was like, oh, I don't think I can get on stage. This has been nice. Thank you very much. I don't want to do it. And my teacher at the time, he said, why don't you go watch a live show? Just go watch a show. And what happened is, I think what happens for everybody, I went to a comedy show, I went to the comic strip, which is where my class was, and the comics were terrible.
Yeah.
And I said, I can do better than that.
Yeah.
So my teacher let my ego do the work for him. Instead of him talking me into it, my ego jumped up and went, come on, Leighann, we can do this. Which is, we shouldn't always listen to our ego.
Yeah.
but I remember I was there, I was waiting most of the night, getting more and more nervous, going, oh, maybe I should just leave. But I got called on stage, I was introduced, and something just amazing happened. I told my first joke and people laughed. And I actually hadn't prepared for that part. Like, oh my God, they're laughing. What do I do now? And forgot what else I wanted to say for a few seconds. But clearly I came to myself. It was the longest 5 minutes of my life. And I got off stage knowing that my life had completely changed. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Because even though I was nervous, I felt like I had found my safe space. Even though we didn't call it that back then, I felt at home.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is where I am supposed to be. Take my lumps, whatever it is, to get better. But this is where I want to be. And this is what I want to do.
I'm sure your previous stage time had prepared you somewhat for being on stage, but it's different when you're up there by yourself, isn't it?
Yes, completely. And when you're part of a cast and there's a fourth wall and the audience isn't really allowed to interact with you except with applause, stand-up is a very different beast. So yeah, there's some preparation perhaps that you have, or familiarity, I should say, with being on stage.
Right.
But it is a different skill set entirely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Thinking about your style of comedy now, how much different is it now than it was when you started?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure how much I've changed stylistically. I think I've just, over time I've gotten better. I hope. But my voice is stronger. I'm more sure about the material that I've written. I'm more confident on stage, and I have more space to let the audience in. Like when I first started, I treated it kind of like a monologue. Like, here are my jokes. These are the jokes I would like to say. Please stop interrupting people with your spontaneous eruptions. All I want is your applause. Just, And in a way, part of me is still that way. My mentor taught me that the best way to fight against hecklers or people who want to interrupt your show is that you don't leave them room to get in. If they're busy laughing, they're not busy thinking about stuff to shout at you. And so I've adhered to that, but I've also had to leave space for the people that are honestly answering my questions, or they're so happy to be there. You have to make that distinction, like who's there, to be an idiot, and who's there because they're really enjoying this. And especially when I'm emceeing, I let them know right up front when I ask a question, it is not a gotcha. I'm just trying to bring us together as a unified audience and have a good time. So I think I've gotten a lot more confident in letting them in and still being able to ringmaster the situation as much as one can. I mean, it's really juggling tigers. It is on a tightrope. I am amazed that anyone ever wants to do this.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Now, I've watched a lot of your stuff, and when you talk about hecklers and things like that, you have such command of the stage that I don't think you're going to have that happen very often.
It's very rare. I am more likely to get the happy heckler. Which is, the maybe a drunk lady at a bachelorette party who's really into it, is really a fan. And
they want to be part of the show. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, you go, girl, that type of thing. Male hecklers are rare because comedy in the before times was a dating activity. What guy is going to take out a girl and then heckle a girl comedian that's going to make him look like the bad guy? He's not going to do that. He's just not. Most guys. I again, it's been so rare for me. One of my favorites was it was a guy in the front rows at New York comedy clubs, this was ages ago, and I rarely perform in glasses, rarely. And this was one of those times I got on stage with my glasses, and I don't get to say anything. He just looks at me and goes, "You look like a librarian." And I don't have heckler lines. I don't have anything prepared. I just looked at him and I said, "How would you know?"
That's good.
And I'm like, "Thank you for the perfect comeback." I mean, no one's ever going to say that to me again. It was just so random. But I'm like, yeah, that's a joke I get to tell now. Thank you.
Yeah. And I really like how you talk about real world stuff, like racism, being money issues, your parents, man issues, all that stuff, and
yet thereof, man issues, yes.
Yeah, and you keep it at a place where it opens eyes, and you could come in a lot harder, is what I'm saying. I'm sure you could come in a lot harder, and I'm sure you and I both think a lot harder because I have a similar style to you, and you could really just slay people and either turn the audience totally for you or against. But it seems like you probably do well with just about any audience. Is that right?
Just about, I'd like to say I have a relatively broad appeal, but I'm also at the same time not everybody's cup of tea. If that makes sense. Nor do I want to be. When you first start, you don't know anybody. Like, oh, I want to make everybody laugh. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. If your show is Wednesday night at midnight, I'm not your girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
My audience already went to bed and they're getting ready for work the next morning. Yeah. I'm not, but you have to learn, not just who your audience is, but who you are and who you work well with. And I've done, so many different types of crowds. I mean, I've done all 50 states. I've performed in all 50 states. Wow. And by the way, we don't need all 50, but that's another story.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've done colleges, cruise ships. Cruise ships are hard in the sense that you have your family show that they ask you to do. Yeah. And then you have your late show, your R-rated show, and I always used to say I'm lowercase r. Lowercase r. Because my just learning who I am as a comic, a lot of the early opinions were that I would be a great TV comic or I would get more work that way. And I also am reflexively, when I was coming up, I didn't like insult humor. I didn't like people who abuse the audience. I'm like, this is counterproductive. People would come in and they're afraid to sit in the front row. I can't have people afraid to come see what I do.
Right.
Why are we spending so much energy chasing audiences out when what we want them to do is come in?
Yeah.
And so I was mindful of that. As a performer, this is not to judge anyone else's style. People do what they do and others like what they like. But I know it was something that I was conscious of. Like, no, I want people in the seats and I want them in the front row.
Yeah.
And I want them laughing.
Right.
Not being, I've seen people freeze up when I look at them and I say hi and they go, and I'm like, we're not doing that. Yeah. It's not that type of show.
Right.
Now, if you bring me nonsense, as a heckler, I could either finish my show or the next 30 minutes could be about your mom.
Yeah.
What are we doing? We could keep it nice and friendly, or we could take this outside.
Yeah.
And no one ever thinks of me that way, but because I don't try to run my show that way.
Right.
I want everybody to have a good time. Everybody who's there.
Yeah.
To have a good time.
Yeah. And
and there is a difference, by the way, between the 8:00 show and the 10:00 show.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Where, if you saw one of those shows, it's like, oh, okay, she's coming in a little harder. Yeah. Cause they're a little drunker.
Yeah.
You adjust,
Yeah. I prefer the 8:00 show myself, but I've been to plenty of the 10:00s too, just because that's when I could get there.
Yeah, listen, I've come to appreciate, the before times, the 10:00 show, because I remember the midnight shows, which is like, what are we doing here, everybody? Can't we just get a juggler?
Yeah.
Can't we just do that?
Yeah. Who was the guy at the Comedy Store that did the late nights that was just so nuts? I don't remember his name, but they just used him all the time for the late nights.
Yeah, no, I don't. I wasn't. I'm New York based, so I don't know who was at the store late. But it's like, yeah, that's the hour for high energy, louder comics, perhaps. And it doesn't hurt to juggle.
Yep,
it doesn't. Because what are we asking for? What kind of attention span are we asking for at night?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say, has everyone read the syllabus before I start?
Right. Yeah.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah, they read the beer bottle. That's all they read. Yeah.
If that.
Thinking about your influences, obviously you must have liked comedy in order to get into it. Who do you think your biggest influences were?
Oh man. I think early on for me, of course, George Carlin, of course, just because similar work ethic, similar styles, similar ideals, perhaps, if I can be so bold. I feel like he made people laugh about really serious things that on the face of them might not have been funny, but he was able to do that and make people laugh. And then once you take that laugh and you have that cleansing breath, as I call it, it's like, that was funny, but that was actually serious. Maybe we can work on this now.
Right.
You know, he epitomized to me the town crier, you know, that person that said, hey, everybody, village is on fire. We should do something.
Yeah.
You know, that's what comedy has done to me. That's great comedy to me. People have different, you know, opinions. You know, they like their slapstick or their silly humor, but humor that makes me laugh and think, that's sort of my wheelhouse. So I guess that's why I grew up liking Carlin. I also like, there's some, well, I won't say lesser known, but Marsha Warfield for sure. And if folks are unfamiliar with her, she was the bailiff, one of the bailiffs on Night Court.
So I've actually approached her publicist, and I haven't gotten anywhere yet. So if you know her, put in a word for me.
Why don't you just hit her up on Facebook? Why are you calling her publicist? That's insane. No, seriously, because I reached out to her on Facebook. This was years ago, just to say how much of a fan I was, because she was one of the first Black women I saw, you know, doing comedy on TV. And I was like, we can do that? Yeah. Because I didn't know anything about Moms Mabley. I was too young. Right. You know, she's in her special, smoking a cigarette, not giving a damn. I was like, Mom, buy me some cigarettes. Like, I was like, what are you watching? It was just awesome. So I reached out to her to tell her what a fan I was. And, you know, lo and behold, she's a fan of my work. And I'm like, oh, that's great. What? Yeah. Are you kidding? I'm mind blown. Like, how do you even know me? And but you know, you follow, you know, you get to know who's who in the industry. And she came here to New York. She actually gave me tickets to go see her show cool. Over at BB King's. And she was like, yeah, hang out. We'll have drinks. I was like, what? You know, I was like, I met her. I already knew, you know, Paul Mooney at the time. And I was like, I am sitting here with comedy royalty, and they think I'm allowed to sit here with them. Like, this is crazy. So sometimes people are more approachable than you think. You don't know. I mean, maybe it's different because it's an interview, but I mean, I have found her to be approachable and delightful, and it helps that she's a fan. Yeah. Well, I'm going to drop your name and just go direct, so we'll see how that works. You never know. Yeah, try it. Yeah. One of the things you mentioned was work ethic, and you know, your bio says that you like to fill up your whole day and you are very organized. How does that go as far as writing and having your material? Are you on like a set schedule for writing, or how does that work for you? No, I wish I were more like, you know, Stephen King, you know, get up, write for 5 hours, turn out 3 novels. Yeah. You know, I wish my work ethic were that strong. In terms of, you know, doing my, I mean, I'm a relentless idea gatherer. You know, so anything that, you know, an idea comes to my head, I stop immediately and write it down. We have the materials to do that. If there's a phone in your hand, you have a dictation machine. Yeah. You have a note app. You know, no idea should ever be allowed to escape, you know, from your mind. So I'm relentless about that. And then, you know, I don't waste my time, you know, when I'm online, waiting online, I'm just not staring off into the atmosphere. I'm looking at my notes going, what did I jot down here? Yeah. What can I flesh out? You know, and I love, and then when I can take it from there to actually sitting down, and I would say majority now it's typing, but I still like the freedom of having a piece of paper and a pen. Yeah. And if it particularly if an idea is giving me a hard time, it's easier for me to flesh it out on paper and just let that rhythm get into that rhythm. It sweeps me up every time. I really enjoy it. And at this moment, believe it or not, I felt like I wanted to do something a little different. So I'm actually doing a writing for late night TV class. Oh, cool. And oh my God, I had no idea how much I would love it, or how much I missed being a student of comedy. You know, because when you're out here doing it and grinding, you sometimes forget about the things that you need to do to, you know, elevate your skills. Right. And so that's actually changed my work ethic recently. I'm up every day, you know, combing through the news, what's happening, gathering ideas, to jot down and then come back and write later. And some of it might be suitable for late night. Some of it's just for me. And there's a difference. It's a really big difference between writing for yourself as a stand-up and then writing for someone else, writing in their voice. I finally think I'm at that point in my career where I have the ability to separate the two. But either way, it's building the muscles. It's building the how should I say, the practice of writing, because you have to fit that in like everything else. If I'm sitting here writing, then I'm not doing something else.
Right.
And if that's just binging Netflix, that's okay. Netflix is going to be there.
Right.
But once I get into the process, I enjoy the process. That's the thing that keeps me coming back. A perfect day for me is having an idea, jotting it down, fleshing it out, seeing where it might connect to another bit in my set, taking that on stage and working it out. If I can go from morning to night and I got that arc.
Yeah.
What? Even if it doesn't work, even if the joke doesn't work, but that now it comes to why doesn't it work? Did I not get it out of my mouth the right way? Did I stumble over words? Was it not in the right position? Did I mess up my timing? Was it not the right? You can play with all of that once you do it the first time and then bring it back, and it's got to be like several passes before you go, yeah, that wasn't funny.
Yeah. And that I ask a lot of comics that because everybody has a different view. A lot of people, they work out new stuff. They don't even write it down. They just work it out on stage. But everybody has, I couldn't do that. Everybody has to have a point where they say, okay, I love this joke. It's my little baby, but nobody else likes it, so it's got to go home. And no, there's no shame in being ruthless. And why would you punish yourself, and why would you punish the audience? And sometimes it's not throwing it out completely, but setting it to the side for later, because something's missing, and you may not have the time or talent to figure out what it is yet. So you set it aside. It's really the George Carlin school of material development. He threw nothing away. It doesn't mean you do all of it, right?
But sometimes something needs to breathe, or you need a different perspective in order to come back to it. And I've come back to stuff years later and went, oh, that's it. I'm finally able to see something, or that's trash.
Yeah.
and being able to say that it's okay. You should be writing and developing at such volume that to let one thing go is not going to sabotage your entire set. At some point, the closer you're using now is not going to be the closer you use 5 years from now, maybe not even a year from now, given the year that we've had,
right.
So you can't get so attached to a bit, especially if it's not working. And I hear you about some people get on stage and they work it out in the moment. Like, okay. And you know what? I think you have to earn that.
Yeah.
I think that's something you earn. And unfortunately, newbies come out and they think, oh, I saw so-and-so, just, riff for 20 minutes. So-and-so was Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Okay, who has unlimited access to stage time. You have to be a little bit more focused with your time.
Yeah.
As do all of us. I mean, I like to prepare, ahead of time. And I think the preparation is what allows me to then discover things in the moment. There are things, trying to get a joke out or doing something new where it'll just come out of my mouth in a way that I never could have written it. Like, now that's gold to me, but only true gold if you've recorded it.
Yeah.
Like when a comic on stage says, oh my God, could somebody write that down? They're serious.
Yes.
Because they forgot to turn their phone on. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. But I also want to add for the I do New Jersey, it's really hard for me to just throw my babies out there. Just, okay, first joke's out of my mouth, brand new.
Yeah.
I like to sandwich them in between more experienced jokes. Like it's like the bigger siblings walking the little kid, little sibling to school. Yeah. Where they have a little support, their first time out. And then we see where they will fall. So I know I'm way overthinking it, but this is what works for me.
Yeah. And really, it's fairly common among comics to do that, to sandwich things that are new in the middle and
Some of us,
give them a shot.
not all.
Yeah, and I don't want to beat up this point, but so you got a new joke and you do it in the middle of the set, and it's like a B minus, and a B minus is usually something you keep because you know you can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
How many repetitions do you think you have to do before, okay, I own this joke, this is part of my act, and it's going to be in every set?
I don't think there's an algorithm for that.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure now that I've said that, there's somebody working on an algorithm right now.
Jerry Seinfeld has one.
Right, for how that math is. This is such an individual thing. As a comic, sometimes you hold on to stuff too long, like a relationship, like you should have left 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's different because given how much stage time you're getting, you might not get to do that joke every single time.
Right.
You're on stage. If you've only got, say, a 5-minute set, and it's a money set, perhaps, or you're on a show, are you going to trot that joke out? Are you just going to go with your killers? So it takes time, especially after that first time. There's so many different ways to tweak it before and like I said, was it the cadence? Was it the position?
Yeah.
Was it the timing? There's so many, as Jerry Seinfeld said, was your head tilted in the right direction?
Yeah.
When you told the joke, the variables are many, and to be willing to hang in there and see how you can fix it, if it's fixable. And is this a joke that's universal? If it's a joke that you can't do if you're performing at colleges and it's not a college joke, if it's a joke about divorce, that joke's not going to fly for that audience.
Right.
Sometimes things are very audience or generationally specific. So I'm sorry, I don't have a number. But yeah, listen, but if it's we're getting over 10 times and it always just falls flat, and you've honestly worked on it, thank you for your service. Bye.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned recording your sets, because I had always recorded audio and not very often recorded video. And then I started doing a couple of videos of my sets and found out exactly why people weren't laughing, because I was just like a wooden statue up there. I wasn't moving. I wasn't doing anything.
Yes. I when I've taught class, I'm a stickler for you at least have to get the audio down, because your on stage hearing, at least in the beginning, is not as good as what you're hearing when you listen to the recording. Like when you're on stage, like, oh my gosh, why is this not doing well? What's happening? And you're in your head. Then you listen to the recording, you go, oh, I totally messed up my setup. The waitress dropped a bunch of drinks. Oh, the audience got distracted. There are things you can listen for after the fact, just off audio. So just that is even valuable. You throw in video and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was stepping backwards on my punchlines. Yeah. That's the subtle thing where, I'm not really sure about this. This is new. I don't know. I'm going to tell it. You guys laugh. There's no confidence there.
Yeah.
Or like you said, you're too stiff. So how do you loosen up? Or people have too much energy. They're pacing for no reason. So the audience is spending their time watching you like a tennis match and not listening to what you're saying. So there's so much rich information. My dad used to call it game film. Yeah. He's a big sports fan, and it's like they play their games, they watch their game footage. What did you do? What happened there?
Right.
And it just shaves so much time off of your development.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
It makes you a stronger performer, and it also gives you something to work on. I have my younger comic friends, they complain about open mics, and I'm like, well, what are you doing when you go on an open mic? If you're just trying to play to those 10 comics in the room, that's not your audience. You walk in, it's like, okay, these are the jokes that I want to do. This is what I'm working on, in terms of material. But now what are you working on physically? Are you working without a mic this week? Are you working with the mic in the...
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal. a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber.
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber, signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Shop safe with PayPal. Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber.
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber, signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Shop safe with PayPal.
Are you working on eye contact? Like, there's so much for you to be doing. You don't have time to worry about the 10 comics in their notebook, not laughing at you.
Right.
You know, how are you developing? How are you using your development time? And I think if you train that way, that's when I say work ethic, that's what you're doing throughout your career.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get off that stage, you know, Saturday night. Yeah, that was a good show. Now, what was that new bit I did?
Right.
You know, let me listen. How did that? Because I said it the best way tonight that I've ever said it. Let me go back and get that. You know.
Yeah.
So this is all very selfish. This is all very, how do I be the best comic? You know, or do my best, you know, at this time. And that's whether you're an open mic or a headliner.
Right.
Honestly.
And really, that's what you have to do, or you're just going to stay at the open mic level. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and you filmed the Dry Bar special in 2019. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
So tell me how that comes about, and take me from, okay, you either asked to do a Dry Bar special or they asked you, all the way through production and all that.
Sure. I will. I'm embarrassed to admit, had no idea who they were.
Yeah.
Nah, not a clue. You know, and here's what's funny. I would see clips of my friends. You know, they do the like little 10-second, 30-second clips, and I'm like, oh, that's great. But my mind didn't go past into, you know, actually connecting. This is Dry Bar. This is their brand. So yeah, I have no idea what I was thinking. So I get a call. I guess it was October, from Tony Camacho. Mm. He goes, "Hey, Leighann, can I submit you for Dry Bar?" And all I heard was submit, you know, comedy, you know, opportunity. You know, we're sort of, most of your career, you're trained to say yes to everything, you know, until you get to the point where you go, oh, I shouldn't have said yes to that, you know, but that comes in time. In the beginning, and for most of your career, you're just like, yes, 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 so you can get on stage. And yes, it sounded like an opportunity. Had no idea what I was saying yes to. Yeah. A week later, he calls me back. So, okay, you're in. You got to fly to Provo, Utah. And I'm like, whoa, what? What are you talking about? And so he slowed down. He explained it to me, and I'm like, and I gotta go when? I didn't even have a full month technically to prepare, and then I had to remind myself, no, I've been preparing my entire career. Let's not get crazy. I'm not starting from scratch. What I didn't have was a lot of run around the city time. You know, to sort of put together the set that I wanted. But I did it. You know, you reach out, you let people know what you're doing. And it was funny, the more people I told, I was like, oh, yeah, I got picked to do Dry Bar. Can I do a spot on your? You got picked to do Dry Bar? Oh, my gosh. And I was like, this is exciting? Yeah. I had no idea until I'm asking for spots. Yeah. You know, and so a lot of people were proud and accommodating. And I thought it was a 15-minute set. Oh, okay. I get there. Yeah, I get there that day. You know, I fly in that day, do the shows that night. It's like, oh, I don't think I could do that anymore. I need to get in a day before now. But that day, so I go in, we're picking outfits, we're doing the run through, and that's what I hear. I'm like, oh, it's a 25-minute set. Literally, my comedy brain went, okay, no nap then.
Yeah.
That's all that means. It's like I'm not getting a post travel nap. So I just spent to, put it, and which for me was actually okay, because I'm one of those people, you tell me how long a set is supposed to be and I over prepare. So if it's a 10-minute set, I've usually got 15 minutes of material that I've had to hack away. And I do that consistently. So I just knew I had to go back in and just put in all the things I thought I had to shave out for time. And so I get there that night. And by the way, just to take a step back, one of the things I learned in the process, and one of the reasons I got submitted, is that the Dry Bar brand is clean comedy.
Yeah.
That's their wheelhouse, but not just clean, Provo clean.
Yeah.
Squeaky Provo, clean. Utah clean. And I've been perceived as clean my entire career. I'm not. But because I strategically use, shall we say, the salty words, because they're accurately used in the right place, in the right time, and the right number of times, people don't hear it when I use it.
Yeah. You don't use it as punctuation.
No. I'm from the Robert Klein school of profanity. It's like a seasoning. You if you overuse it, you've ruined the meal. Yeah. Just the right amount, the meal is delicious. Yeah. That's to me profanity, and even subject matter. So even that, knowing that I'm perceived as relatively clean or mostly clean, their criteria made me go, I don't know if I can do this, you guys. I mean, just to give you a very specific example, you're not allowed to say, "Oh my God."
Oh.
Right. Now, for most of us, that's just a random utterance going in between jokes or as a response to something you've said. For them, it is literally said in the praise of God, for worship. And so to say it when you don't mean that is considered disrespectful.
Yeah.
But they know their brand, and so if you get pictures of the show, they think you already fit, but they also want you to win. Yeah. And so they send along their guidelines. They send you a video of what is expected and accepted and what's not. I don't think as a performer, we're used to being told, "Hey, don't joke about this 5 minutes before the show starts." I did a school. And 5 minutes before I go on, they said, "Yeah, could you not talk about religion and date rape?" And now that is all I want to talk about. Yeah. Even though I don't have any jokes about that. Yeah. I'm sitting there 2 minutes writing new material. I mean, it's just this weird response that you have as a comic or as a human being, because humans are like that. You tell us no, and that's the thing we want to poke and touch. So going from having that situation to going, no, here's all our guidelines in advance. And at any point, you if you really don't think you could do it, I say no. Don't make it a difficult situation for yourself and for them. And this is whether it's a TV show or a gig. If they're paying you money, and they're calling you in, you're supposed to be a pro and go, "Okay, yes, I can do this," or "No, I can't." So, I flew out there. They treat you like gold. I mean, and it's beautiful. I wish I had a chance to stay longer. Yeah. To just, take it all in and enjoy it. Because the little I saw was just absolutely beautiful.
Take in God's country.
Well, yeah. And depending on which God, because I'm like, I think Thor would like a piece of this. This is nice. Till Loki gets there and then it's done for. Yeah. But yeah, they treated me very well. The audiences just primo, just so good.
I noticed that. I watched it today, and I thought they really reacted well.
Oh, they were so good. And also I feel it also helps that I was dressed nice. I came dressed, loaded for bear. And I've always been that way. Not necessarily it's always sequins, but my theory is, okay, if you don't get the jokes, you'll like the outfit. Yeah. You're going to be entertained on many levels here. And if it's not the outfit, then the sparklies in the outfit will distract you. Right. From any jokes you don't like. But it was weird to be in a club that didn't serve alcohol. It only served candy. And I was like, wow. that's different. Like they are really serious. They're really committed, but they are also, you know, they know their brand and and they treat the comics well.
Yeah.
You know, I had no argument. And again, I forget I have to explain to people. They're like, oh my God, there are people in the audience. Did you just tape this? And like, whoa, slow down. This was from the before times. This was 2019 when we could gather as a people. And then the decade of 2020 happened. So I feel like I taped this special 11 years ago. Yeah. And it's just getting released. I
hear that. Yeah, for sure.
Now. And I'm actually glad because it feels like 2020 is just new. It's a new feeling. It's a good time to have something like this to promote, you know, going forward. It's a good time.
And you've got, as far as I can see from Dry Bar, and I've had a few people that have done specials on the podcast, it's a one and done take. And does it go out with no edits or? No.
They are belt and suspenders people.
Okay.
We taped that show twice.
Okay.
In front, same outfit, you know, in front of two different audiences, same material mostly. Yeah. And they I didn't get sent a rough cut, I want to say until November last year. Mm-hmm. You know, so it was almost a year later. Part of that, I'm sure, was the pandemic. That I'm sure their production timeline usually isn't that extended. But I was surprised because any TV show I've ever done, I don't get to see a rough cut. I was like, is this a mistake? Did y'all mean to send this to me? They're like, yeah, we want you to see it. Don't worry about the color corrections or this or this. And I was like, oh yeah, color correction is exactly what I was worried about. That's not my field. I just assume you guys will work that magic. And they said, yeah, we just want you to see it. And was there anything you wanted us to change? And there was one thing, you know, that I think got mixed up in the edit or, you know, that I didn't remember doing. And I'm like, yeah, that joke right there does not make sense in that position. Can you take that out? They're like, sure. And I was like, I'm just, you know, as an artist, you get so used to not being treated well or respected. So that when it happens, it's like, is this what it's like normally?
Well, their productions are very professional, and you know that they're shooting enough B-roll that they can do a take and come back because it's so seamless when you watch it. I see a lot of shows that were recorded. That's why I thought it was a one and done. I've seen a lot of shows that were recorded over 2 nights, and you can tell it's super obvious.
Well, and maybe it helps that it was one night, you know, 2 shows, 1 night. This wasn't 2 nights, you know, because there is something to be said, different energy, you know, your hair curls a little differently, you know, I don't know. So there's some logic there to why you would do it back to back,
right?
You know, and just turn the audience over. But they, you know, it was nice to be with people who not only cared about the production, but they cared about you as a comic. And it's funny. I was agonizing over material. Of course, it's like, what do I do? What do I put in? What do I take out? And I decided this was just sort of me, my peace of mind. I said, this will be the material that I don't really do anymore about my parents. Yeah. You know, this will be sort of a love letter, you know, in my heart, in my mind, you know, no one else knew this, you know, to the people that supported me my entire career. And, you know, the last few years have for me have been that transition to being the adult in the house. You know, the role reversal thing has happened. So I thought this would be a good idea to put that material there sort of as a love letter and a thank you to my parents and as a sort of a nudge and a wink to people who are in that position. And it worked. You know, I remember in between takes, the director came over to me and started talking to me about his parents, about how they weren't there yet, you know, and him, but he could see it, and him and his siblings were starting to talk about it, which is more than what most people do. Most people just try to ignore it, you know, but maybe, I guess he was the oldest, but he's like, yeah, I see it, you know, and kudos to him for trying to get out ahead of it. And at the end of the night, I remember talking to a couple who had been there, done that. with her parents, you know, and they were so grateful that somebody could take something that's not on its face funny at all.
Yeah.
but there are elements of the role reversal that are hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think if we could put it out there, it does what Carlin does. It makes people laugh about something that's actually really serious. And then it's like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
You know?
That's great. And I relate to the parent thing. Just my dad is all I've got because my mom passed away, but he went through a hip surgery. It was a latter part of 2019, and that was a journey. I don't say the word journey very much, but it was a lot, and for both of us, and we got to know each other a little bit better. I know that, and
my gosh, yeah.
But they get so stubborn, you know. They just no, I'm not going to get up out of this chair, and I'm not going to walk. I'm not going to get my hip feeling good, and everything's wrong. And it's well, first of all, PT is hard. Physical therapy is hard no matter how old you are. Yeah. You know, you add on some years and some crankiness. Yeah. Yeah. That's tough stuff. Yeah. How's he doing now? Actually, mobility-wise, he's pretty good, except for he's got neuropathy on because he's diabetic. He's got the neuropathy on the bottom of his feet. So he, you know, right now his position is there's no reason for me to get the hip replacement. I shouldn't have done it because I can't walk because of my feet. But, you know, so now I'm looking for different remedies for that because there's not a whole lot you can do. So try to make it a little bit better so he can get up and walk a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's definitely tough, you know, and I remember, you know, trying to shop my way out of whatever was happening with my parents, you know. It's like my dad needed cane tips. Like he was just out there with a cane with no tip on it. And I'm like, okay, this is a disaster about to happen. I'm on Amazon looking for cane tips, you know. And, you know, so whatever they needed something, I'd look it up and buy it on Amazon. And it really changed my algorithm. You know, like Amazon must think I'm an 80-year-old woman. Because if you like cane tips, maybe you'll like diapers. I was like, what? And I'm like, do you know how much lingerie I got to search to get my algorithm back on point, you know? But and to their stubbornness, I like to, and you can only do this, you can't do this in the moment. You have to do it in a quiet moment when you're not having an argument, when you don't want to wheel them out into traffic, and realize how long have they been adults? Yep. Doing what they want to do, how they want to do it, and just you switch that around. If somebody walked up to you all of a sudden and said, "Hey, you can't drive anymore. Give me your keys." How hard would you fight? Yeah, I'd fight. You know, so it's a big change, and it's scary, and it can speak to our sense of identity and our sense of freedom. Yeah. And so when you put that in your mind before the next big fight, maybe the fight isn't as big. Yeah. Or you realize you don't need to win this one. Right. Yeah. Or you approach it differently so it's not a fight. You know, it's so much of this is learning on the job learning. Yeah. You know, and I can only say this after having a couple of yelling matches with old people. Yeah.
I compare it to having grandkids more than kids, turning it around, because you let grandkids do whatever they want as long as they don't get hurt. And so I think it's pretty much like that.
Yeah. No, there were some, I really had to decide which battles I wanted to fight, and they're not all worth it. Yeah. You know, like I stopped having the food fight. Yeah. Like if it was nothing that was going to, you know, raise his blood pressure and, you know, send him to the hospital, it's like, yes, you can have the candy. Yeah. I'm not taking candy from an 80-year-old baby. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just not doing it.
Oh man. So, obviously the comedy has taken you other places. You did the podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson for a while, and you've been doing a lot of writing. And I didn't get to read any of Dict jokes, but can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, sure.
And I'm saying it right?
Yes, you are. A visual aid right here. it's much more important, when we're doing radio, when we mention the book, that T has to be properly enunciated so that we don't pique the interest of the FCC. I'm sure they have other fish to fry. But yes, the book is called Dict Jokes, and Dict is short for dictionary because I'm like a giant word nerd. Like that was my undergrad degree, journalism and creative writing. And I've kind of always had the idea throughout my life that words would be more fun if they meant what they sound like. Because I had those parents that were like, sound it out, get up and get the dictionary. That's back when you had to actually physically get up and get the dictionary. And like, it was just easier for me to sit there and read my book and go, okay, this word sounds like what I think means what I think it sounds like. So like during my shows, I tell people, I said, the example is grammatology sounds like the study of grandmothers. Or histrionics sounds like the history of ebonics. Or elixir sounds like how British men give oral sex. It's just a silly little book, it's a silly little coffee table book, but I think we need silly little books. I agree. I would love it because I would sell these after my shows and people come by, they say, can I take a look? And I said, sure. They pick up the book. I would love it when they just flip the book and then start giggling. And I'm like, there you go. And then they reach into their pockets, they're buying the book, or they have friends who are teachers, or they have, friends who have students who are taking the SAT. And so, because that's the thing, these are real words. These are actually real, honest to goodness words. And so the sale, is that, it's my funny definition. But you actually get the real definition of the word, and it's part of speech. So you can fool around and accidentally learn stuff. But that's not how I sell it. It's not how I sell it. Just have some fun. Just take it with you. It's a bathroom book. You take it in, you start laughing, things move along. So I loved it doing it at my shows, and it's, of course, they're on Amazon. I have volumes 1 and 2 of this book on Amazon. So
that's great.
If you're a word nerd, by all means.
I am. I'm a big vocab nut, and along with that, the People with Parents podcast. This goes into you taking care of mom and dad right now. I'm sorry, go ahead. No. They started the podcast, People with Parents, and it actually came out of the frustration of not understanding what was happening, to them and our relationship. And even before that, I started talking about it on stage because it was just taking a bigger, space in my life. And it was like, what is happening? And, as comics, depending on the type of comic you are, you process your life through your art and you tell jokes on stage. And I started having people come up to me, tell me about their mom, their father-in-law, their aunt, and I thought it would be a generational thing, but no, I had young people too, because they have grandparents, or they have, they were, their parents had them late in life, so they had older parents. And so I had no idea how many people were struggling with this because we don't talk about it. And I started the podcast out of just, I needed that outlet that wasn't always stand-up, because some of this stuff just wasn't flat out funny. And it was really my way of reaching out and looking for help. And I found out, wow, there's an entire, huge community of people who are laboring with, what it means to take care of an elderly loved one or a loved one who is unwell. And how do you manage that? And, there's some interviews, but most of these turned out to just be, funny little poignant stories that would happen between me and my dad. Like one of my most popular series of episodes is when, how do you set the thermostat in a multi-generational home? And I woke up one night, middle of the night, it's July, and my dad had the heat on. Because the old man was always cold. He's wearing layers, he's wearing long johns, he's wearing all of it, and he's still cold. I woke up in a sweat going, oh my God, is this menopause? Like, did it start? What's happening? And at the time the thermostat was we have a 2-family house. The thermostat was in his part of the house. And, so I'm going down there, setting it back to normal and looking at him going, don't you touch that thermostat. It's his house. I'm telling him not to touch the thermostat in his house. And it got so bad
that I paid to have that thermostat taken out. I put in a new one that I could control with my phone, and then I locked it out.
Oh, okay.
And then I had the nerve to go off and perform at a conference. I get to the conference, everybody's like, yeah, hey, Leighann, how you doing? So what's going on with the thermostat?
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea how many people were like into this little urban Shady Pines drama of me, my dad, and this thermostat. But it hits home for so many people, because how do you regulate the temperature in a multi-generational home? It's a real question for some people.
Yeah.
Who gets to be comfortable? Oh, yeah. No, so yes, it has been. That's how the podcast started. It's been therapeutic for me to just get these stories out, and it's been helpful for some people to know that they're not alone,
right,
on this journey, because there's some real hard stories out there,
yeah,
of what people are dealing with.
Yeah, and I found that the humor part, bringing it on stage is one type of therapy, and then actually talking it out as it is the other. And really, if you don't do both, you're not tackling all of it. The humor part gets you more able to talk about the serious part, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. One of the most interesting comments I've ever had about the podcast, someone mentioned to me, they said when they see it pop up in their feed, they're like, yay! Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know they're going to laugh, but they're also going to feel.
Yeah.
There's going to be some feelings there that, might not be comfortable to feel on the commute to work when you're crying on the train.
Yeah.
But I take that as a compliment,
right.
To be able to move people in that way.
Right. So we're going to get down to the last question. I like to ask everybody this in a little bit different way, but the best part of being in comedy is all the comedians you meet, and they come into your life. And the worst part of comedy is all the comedians you meet, and they come into your life.
No argument from me.
Yeah. So I like to ask, what's the best and worst pieces of advice that you got coming up?
Oh, the worst piece of advice I got coming up, again, women were told back in the day not to dress too sexy on stage, because a woman in the audience might think you want her man.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, and and I believe that. You look at really early footage of me. There's not a ton out there, but I'm wearing hats and boxy jackets, and I'm not a girl. Don't look at me. It's ridiculous. But I finally had to get comfortable in myself, in my skin, and realize it's got nothing to do with the audience. It's how I feel when I get on stage.
Right. And
so I actually joke about it now. They say don't dress too sexy on stage. A woman in the audience might think you want her man. And I look at the audience, I'm like, ladies, rest easy. I got Netflix and batteries.
Yeah.
I think the best advice, and it's hard to narrow it down because I've gotten such good advice from so many people. You have to be willing to listen, though, and take it in. But the best direct advice I got was from Bobby Collins.
Okay.
I've opened for him many times, at various clubs, and he said, you have to let them love you. Don't be so guarded on stage. And so he says, like, they want to love you. People who are coming to comedy shows, most of them, some people got some issues. Most people want that connection. That's why they're watching it live. They're not home watching it on YouTube. So he goes, open that up and let them in and let them love you. And that comes down to being relaxed and confident on stage. And it wasn't instant, but it definitely informed and changed how I approached performing. So,
that's great. I've always wondered if I should give these questions ahead of time, but I think if you think too much about them, then you sometimes you don't pick out the best. You're like, I don't know about this one.
See, I'm type A. I would have studied. I would have had a treatise here. That would be flipping pages. So section 72.
Diagrams and
we're sharing screens. It's not.
Oh, that's great. So let's get into where we can find you and what you're working on now. So
Oh, sure.
Go.
The best place to find me, the access point to all things me, is my website, which is veryfunnylady.com, because people can spell that after they've had their 2-drink minimum. Unlike my name, no matter how much they like me, where does the G go? I mean, it's just, it's sad. So veryfunnylady.com is how to find me, and that'll get you to my Twitter, my IG, my Instagram, my Facebook. I'm really trying to have people subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Leighann Lord Comedy, because we've been trying to get more videos up there, and there's already a ton of content there that I think people will enjoy. In terms of what I'm working on now, I am continuing to do the podcast. I've happily transitioned from doing live in-person shows to doing virtual shows, because this is where we are now. Yeah. And I had no idea that I would enjoy it so much. I spent the first, 20 plus years of my career leaving my house to do comedy. Now I'm like, you want me to leave my house to do comedy? Yeah. And so building that skill set and doing those shows has been more fun than I expected. Yeah. So I don't know how much longer this will go, but I don't feel as horrible as I felt last year when everything shut down at first. So I'm enjoying building that audience and that skill set in my square, so to speak.
It's different, isn't it? And
it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't take to it very well, but I still do it. And I find that I do much better, because I don't do much crowd work when I'm on a IRL stage, but in a Zoom room, I do a lot of crowd work. And that brings them in, and then they listen to the rest. So, and I always give the host a bunch of crap too. So, that always helps too. So, it's different, and
it's different, and it's not that much different from the real world.
Right.
Okay, when you first started comedy, that was awkward, that was weird. What'd you do? You went to open mics, you got better. What do you do for Zoom shows or online shows? You do them.
Yeah.
You do, and then you do more of them. Stop making it complicated, everybody. How do I MC a show? The same way you did in real life. You explain to the audience what's about to happen, what's expected of them, what we would like. Unmute your mics, turn your camera on. Make sure you don't have any background noise. You let them know as the MC what's expected of them, and then you go and introduce everybody like they're your best friend. And you make it feel like a cohesive experience. Same job. Everybody, same job.
It's different. I've had a lot of fun doing it, and my first few were just absolutely awful, and they were recorded. So yeah.
Oh no.
Do you stand up or sit down?
I prefer to stand, but man, if I'm closing, my feet after an hour are like, we don't like this. So because it's just been hard. So I try to do best of both worlds. Like I let them know, the comments in the beginning, I was like, listen, you guys, I'm here, I'm listening, because I like supporting the show. I think it's important. And then I sort of mosey back to my area where I'm standing for my show. But I think it's a better energy. I shouldn't say better. It's a stand-up energy. Now, if you have to sit, that's fine. I get it. But I like standing. I've stood my entire career, and I feel more in show mode when I'm standing.
I feel absolutely the same, and that's why I've got this going on. I've got the mic and the stand and everything, so it just works
different
better
energy.
For me. The only problem is I'm 6'5", so getting the camera at the right place is really hard.
That positioning, like my pre-show tech is like, okay, I'm moving the stand and the mic and the light, and I've become my own producer. So it's a lot, and I'm 5'7".
Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you talking to me, Leighann, after you've been on my phone for about a year and a half. So
wow. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this, man. I love talking about myself. No. I mean, I love talking about comedy, man.
Yeah.
This is my heart.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
This has been great. And folks, make sure to go to veryfunnylady.com. And all the links will be in the show notes. That'll make it easy. Thanks for watching. A few of you watched, and thanks for listening.
New Extra Charge Hot and Iced Coffee from Dunkin' is made with 20% extra caffeine from green coffee extract, because we could all use a little extra this year. Whether that's an extra boost, some extra boldness, or the drive to go the extra mile, we're extra ready for whatever comes our way and extra excited to take it on. Let's get it done with a medium extra charge coffee from Dunkin' for $2 with 20% more caffeine. And pair it with snackable stuffed bagel minis for an added all-day boost. Order ahead on the Dunkin' app. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber.
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber, signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Shop safe with PayPal.